The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. is known for his I Have a Dream speech. A less popular speech is Why America May Go to Hell, in which King decries the ways that this nation has dismissed the poor, black, and working class communities. Today, our guest will focus on King's speech, his vision of the beloved community, and how King is inspiring them in their respective roles in leadership. Please stay tuned. Welcome to Perspectives on Faith and Culture. I'm Karen Crozier, your host and producer. Today I have Council Member Blong Jong, who will be one of our guests sharing today. Welcome, Council Member.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
You're
I appreciate
welcome.
it being here.
We also have Pastor Paul McCoy of New Light for New Life Community Church. Welcome, Pastor McCoy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let's get right to the issues at hand. When we look at why America may go to hell, in King's speech, what really strikes you in what he names back in 1968, before his death, when he gave this speech? Let's start with you, Council Member.
You're very fortunate, and I was very fortunate that I actually did some homework, read the speech. And what caught me is that his main issues that he was talking about is still relevant today. You're talking about the poor, you're talking about the homeless, you're talking about a community of colors, you're talking about the working class. The same struggle that he was fighting for, that he was advocating, that he was asking our brothers and sisters to come together and unite and really look for the humanness in all of us, that it is still some of the arguments and some of the struggles that we all face today, in 2013. And so the message, at least to me, is the same. And we continue to sometimes ignore, but it's good that we have this that we can always go back to and remind us why we're doing what we're doing.
What do you think, Pastor McCoy? What was the most striking things to you, and why, as a pastor in the 21st century?
I think what was very amazing in listening to his speech was the fact that he recognized the importance of people coming together and the odds that people had to face in order to show the struggles that they were enduring every day. That takes a lot of strength. And in his speech, he was very appreciative of the fact that people came out in Memphis, the garbage workers, their families, men, women, and children, at a time where poverty was rampant as it is today, and they made a stand. And that is what really inspired me in listening to his speech, is because the same initiative, the same spirit, the same faith that people have is going to have to be displayed today.
Well, the topic is really provocative, in my opinion. Why America may go to hell. That is a very provocative statement that he's raising. What do you think about his assessment? Do you think America has descended? We're nearly 40-some years beyond his death. Has America descended to that place that he was afraid that we might go? Pastor McCoy, I'm going to give you the first response to that.
There's no doubt conditions have become worse. Even though we are the richest country in the world, but yet poverty has increased. Inequality, the gap of equality has widened today. The richer have gotten richer, the super rich have gotten even more super rich, and the poor has gotten even more poor. Our middle class has shrunk, and the devastation that poverty inflicts upon people is running rampant all throughout our nation, especially here in Fresno. And Fresno especially so because we have the largest concentration of poverty right here in Fresno. We can think about New Orleans, Hurricane Katrina, but the fact of the matter is that Fresno ranks at the top of concentration of poverty.
Mm. So we have become, it has descended into a greater place of poverty, of a condition of hell where people's needs are not being met. And you were sharing earlier, Council Member, concerning the humanitarian aspect that King really calls us to and how we are all interconnected. So what do you see to be the reality? Have we gone, are we in hell from your perspective as a public official?
Well, we're in some difficult challenges. There is no doubt about it. And I think the pastor here has made some stark reality.
Mm-hmm.
But I also want to say that, Dr. Martin Luther King has left a great foundation mm-hmm. to combat the issues that we face today. And what he talks about, and I'll reiterate and support, is that we need to come together more as a community. Mm-hmm. America has definitely gotten more diverse mm-hmm. in terms of its community. Mm-hmm. And so part of that is how do we come together and face the deeper challenge that we have put ourselves into. Mm-hmm. Because how do you explain? When we talk about America, because I've been outside of this country, everybody wants to come to America, and yet we have a tough and challenging time taking care of our own. Mm-hmm. And when you look at where we are in an agricultural center, what we can call mm-hmm. the state, but some of us say we feed the world, and we had a tremendous year in terms of ag. You look at the numbers, and yet we still have hunger, and we still have a lack of education. We still have the basics in terms of moving our community forward. So we have fallen, but I think the word and the wisdom and the efforts that was used then is still relevant now, but in a more diverse culture, more diverse community, and keeping us to make sure that we're keeping the promises of America.
When we look at the issue of race, the issue of poverty, the issues of now in a 21st century context of Fresno, immigration and linguistic and cultural diversity, how have you engaged those particular issues in your leadership as a public official?
Well, it's funny. When we talk about immigration, and since I believe even before I was elected in 2007, I was working with a large coalition of Latino partners out there in the community world in fighting for immigration. Obviously, the larger population is our Latino or Mexican American community, no doubt about it. But there is about 1 million of those that are Asian Americans. Mm-hmm. And a piece of that is my community that impacts how immigration is implemented and how it affects family reunification. Mm-hmm. When we talk about race relations, we're part of that gets carried, just like our Americans or our African Americans that came here and felt with some of the racism that was put upon them. Now I wouldn't say that we at the same level, but the racism that we came during the Vietnam War after being here, names that were called, telling us to go back home. Why were we here? This is not our place. Those are things that are very tough and traumatic for a young child who wants nothing more but to leave a war-torn country, that their parents are being chased down. And so those are things that I think all Americans at one point, at one time, share. I think sometimes we've just been here too long. We have forgotten what America is. And even to those that said they came to, Plymouth Rock, they weren't, as far as I know by history, they weren't necessarily perceived to be the best of citizens, and that's why they were here. So I think we just have to remember what American history is all about, that we can appreciate why we have all these people want to say that we're all Americans.
The interesting point that council member raises, Pastor McCoy, as far as the Latinos and our Southeast Asian sisters and brothers, but also as enslaved Africans were brought here as involuntary immigrants, and then we know that there are also African immigrants who come here as well, but who come with more resources than many of our African Americans who've been here and have been treated properly. But share more how you have been able to address the issues of race, poverty, and the new immigration that has continued to take place in your leadership as pastor.
When we look at poverty, poverty in America is depicted as a black Latino, when the numbers in fact tells us is that most of the people that are in poverty are Caucasian people. But yet when we look at TV, they're always flashing pictures of someone black, someone that is depressed, someone that may be on drugs. When it comes to immigration, we always see a face of a Latino, when in fact immigration, as Councilman Blung has said, immigration impacts across the board. I know of Africans from Nigeria that have been deported, families broken up, okay? I know of people that are Caucasian where it have been deported, families are broken up, the children are here. I even know of a pastor that was deported from Fresno, and his family was broken up. So immigration impacts all of us, but yet the media depicts it as poverty as one that is black, Latino. When it comes to immigration, is the face that we see is Latino, when in fact it's across the board.
And when we look at some of the challenges of addressing race and poverty, for example, the lack of economic jobs, the lack of education and training, the dilapidated schools. If we look at what is happening in West Fresno, many West Fresno schools, we have for the first time in over 30 years, middle schools going up. But it took the politics and legislation or a lawsuit in order to engender that. What are some of the other challenges that you have encountered that prohibit us from addressing these deeper issues of race and poverty that King brought to our nation's consciousness?
Well, I think a piece of that is, you know, and I'll say this just because at this particular point, we're probably one of the newer Americans, refugee groups to come here and to understand the process and how things work. But that is part of the things that we're starting to appreciate what our voice is too, and what does that voice mean. And I think as we as community begin to understand that America allows you to have many different voices, and that the voices needs to be heard, and the voices can be a single voice, or can be enjoined with your own particular community, or more importantly, enjoined with what is America, the different communities, and how we advocate, how we fight for those issues, because at the end of the day, it is those issues that make America strong when we're talking about opportunities to education, opportunities to good jobs, to where parents can raise a family, opportunities for a good environment, quality of life issues, some of the basics that we look for.
Great. I'm going to have to
please
cut you off there. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. Thank you.
For over 25 years, KNXT has been serving the people of the San Joaquin Valley with good family television that's just not available anywhere else. It's important for you, the viewer, to help support this valuable tool of ministry. KNXT needs to continue to grow and bring you important programming about your faith. But sometimes it's hard to stop and find the time. Make it easy. Go to knxt.tv and find out how easy it is to support your Catholic television station, KNXT TV.
Welcome back to the show. Today I'm with guests Councilmember Blong-Jong and Pastor McCoy, and we're gauging the significance of King's speech, Why America May Go to Hell. One of King's most dominant themes or ideology is the beloved community. And in the beloved community, he was raising critical questions about the issue of how do governments and institutions and their respective leaders engage in caring for the people and the masses. And what does that mean for people when we are able to make decisions that first consider the masses, those who are the most vulnerable populations, instead of trying to preserve our own self-interest. The beloved community. So the question that I want us to transition to now, as we think about King's focus on this beloved community, as we have talked about the human needs, the need for education, understanding what happens to one connects to us all, that was all part of King's beloved community. How can we experience today, concretely, a more broader manifestation of this beloved community, in your opinions?
You sure you don't want to go to the pastor first?
No, I'm going to start off with the public official, the public servant.
You know, for me, it's continuing to fight the good fight, and to have that aspiration, whether we call it the perfect place or the perfect community or nirvana. It's knowing that, at least for me, the reality for me, that maybe not achieving everything to be that perfect place, but fighting to get there, making sure that voices are heard, making sure that as an elected official, that I'm trying to be responsive, being responsible, and trying to speak maybe a voice that have not been heard, because I have that opportunity. Now, do I get everything I want? Do I get everything that I feel will get us closer to that place? No. But that doesn't mean that I don't try, that I don't try to bring a sense of consciousness to what we do. Because at the end of the day, people say government, talk about business and so forth, but I always believe sincerely in my heart, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing. Government is about the people, and government is people. When we try to make government a business or lesser than that, and it's not about the people, that's when I think we move out of the path of service. The path of service that we are obligated to when we decide to do this type of work. So I will continue to fight that good fight, and hopefully to not only do the right thing, but hopefully that I will continue to have the courage to do what is right. And I think there's a clear distinction on those. And sometimes I'm successful, and sometimes I go and pray and ask for forgiveness. But I hope that the Lord will continue to put me up in that pedestal and opportunity to be out there. And give me the courage to be that voice.
Continuing to fight the good faith. That's a text from Paul, fighting the good fight of faith. And Pastor, how do you see concrete manifestations taking shape? What needs to happen for this more powerful, pronounced manifestation of King's vision of the beloved community?
The beloved community is a community that is not a sit-down community. It is not a community that sits back and wait for government to take the initiative. The beloved community has to be an activist community. Gandhi once said, be the change that you want to see in the world. And so the church has to be a transforming agent, wherein the people take the initiative, organize themselves, and advocate for themselves, and petition the government, petition leaders, petition Councilman Blum, and when we petition our leaders, is to go to them and show them convincingly is that the position that they may be taking may not go far enough. The position that they may be taking may not be the position that the people want. But we have to be, the beloved community has to be an activist community that shows the community that this is the way to go to meet the needs of the people. We have a homeless population here in Fresno, and so it's going to take us to advocate those issues that has to be advocated in order to improve conditions for people who are homeless, people who are working but are working in low-wage jobs. We have to be advocates for them, okay? And so it's going to take the beloved community to be an activist church. That's why we saw Dr. King in Memphis during the sanitation strike, is because the sanitation workers are a part of the beloved community. And he went to speak to them, to honor them, to give them the dignity that they deserve, is to show the world, to show the officials in Memphis that they should be listened to and that their issues should be addressed. And so it's those kinds of things that the beloved community has to be involved. We cannot be a sit-down community. We have to be a community that is on the move, that are doing things, that are creating things, that is making a difference, you know, fighting the good fight.
Right. And so you are raising the issue that it's the people that moves the government and not the government that needs to make decisions for the people.
Absolutely, because today citizens sit back and they look for the county, they look for the city to take the initiative. We citizens has the power within ourselves is to move the county, is to move the city, and to make the difference.
And that was a significant part of King's grassroots
Absolutely.
movement. That was a significant aspect of the civil rights, as he was able to mobilize not only pastors, congregations, the working poor,
Yes.
the underemployed, as well as the uneducated, the miseducated, to give them a voice so that they can speak their truth. And as during the latter in his life, we're aware that he was focusing on the Poor People's Campaign.
Absolutely.
And so how do you see in this process faith and leadership coming together for you? You had shared a little bit earlier, council member, about your prayer, asking for forgiveness, of your distinction between doing what is right and doing right.
You know, one of my prayers that I always say quietly, whether to myself or when we get ready to go on the dais, is, you know, God grant me the serenity to accept the things that I cannot change, courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. You know, we all have our different faith, and I come from a culture that believes spiritually, you know, in shamanism, do different practices, how it moves us. But, you know, there has to be somebody beyond ourselves that gives us the strength. If we just are relying upon our own intuition, our own capacity, then we're very limited. That we have to have faith in something larger than ourselves. And we have to have faith that there is something better. That we have to have faith that people, as the pastor says, that will come together. And it is in that faith that we continue to do what we do. If we didn't have faith, then I guess we wouldn't have hope, huh? And that, I've seen a part of that. Not a very good part.
Thank you. Pastor McCoy, what are your thoughts on, it's not ironic to say to the pastor, how does faith really play in this process? Because many of our pastors have really sold out God in many ways, are exploiting God to advance their own interests and not really caring for the people.
It's interesting. We're talking about faith, and it brings me to scripture where it simply says faith, being alone, is dead. And saying that, I'm thinking about
faith without works.
I think our works, faith without works is dead.
Right.
You know, faith being alone is dead. Is that if you have faith but you don't work it, okay, it's dead. It's like in politics, for example, we complain, okay, but we don't register to vote. We don't go and vote. We don't read what's on the ballot. And so if you have the faith, you have to work that faith, and then working that faith means that you have to go and register and vote, participate in the process to make a difference, okay? And so it's important that we deepen our faith, while at the same time deepen our work in that faith, so that we can make the difference that needs to be made in our communities.
Great. Martin Luther King Jr. celebration will be taking place January 25th at Fresno City College. We look forward to having you there as we will continue this conversation on remembering and renewing King's dream for peace and visions and practices of the beloved community. It is scheduled for Saturday, January 25th from 8:30 to 4 o'clock at Fresno City College. And please contact Karen Crozier at 453-2020 if you would like additional information. In our closing thoughts, please, in 10 seconds or less, 10 seconds or less, you can do it. What would you share to those out there and how we can go do likewise in light of the message that King leaves for us? Beginning with you, Pastor.
Silence is betrayal. If we're silent on the things that matter, then we have betrayed the things that the people need.
Thank you. Councilman Blanc?
You know, when all good thing has already been said, the smartest thing is to be quiet. Okay. And I'm going to try to be smart and be quiet because the words that were already spoken has already hit those marks in terms of faith, in terms of engagement, and all the things that the good Dr. Martin Luther King has said.
Thank you for watching today's show. You can watch us at KNXT.TV, or you can also see us on Channel 49 on Thursdays at 8 p.m. or on Fridays at 1 p.m. Take care and God bless.